Make sure to check us out on Letterboxd for written reviews.
for films that we've done not only on the podcast, but outside of the podcast too.
Links in the description below.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Rewatch podcast. My name is Samuel
And my name is Jaden.
and this is a podcast where we rewatch classic or current films and then decide whether they deserve a rewatch from you. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other place you listen to podcasts.
And if you end up enjoying this episode, consider leaving a like.
And if you'd like to reach the show, you can leave a comment on YouTube or send us an email at theonerewatchpodcast@gmail.com. If you're listening via Apple Podcasts, you can leave us a review. And thanks again to that one user who did. We're on an average of 5 stars. How good.
Yes, let's go.
So, Jaden, today, what are we going to be talking about?
We're talking about Black Widow.
Right.
Another MCU. Well, it's been a while, hasn't it?
It has.
2019, which from what I remember, the last film was Spider-Man Far From Home.
Right.
So it's been 2 years since we've seen an MCU film in theaters.
That's true.
Majority of people would probably be clamoring at, cinemas wanting to get in and watch this film because it's kind of like a big thing now. MCU film, go to watch the MCU film.
Right.
But I felt like I was kind of obligated to watch it
Because we've gone this far?
Yeah. After hearing what you've said, and I don't know, I'm semi-invested in this universe by now. Why not go along with it?
Tell us a bit about what your expectations for this movie in particular going in. Obviously, we've had these Disney Plus shows recently with the MCU, and sort of, there's been controversial reviews, sort of mixed opinions about them.
Yeah.
And so, for better or worse, those have been sort of the projects that have led us into this movie. What were your thoughts going into Black Widow? What did you want from this film in particular?
I kind of just wanted like a Winter Soldier version too, but with Black Widow at the forefront.
Right.
And, a lot of people are saying it's better than Winter Soldier. And it's like, come on now. Like, come on. Statistically speaking, it's a worse film. Like, we all know that. And, my expectations for the film had kind of been dampened by what you said. And then, like, every other critic out there who's ever been critically acclaimed saying that this film's pretty bad. And I agree with that to some aspect. I think there's a lot of problems in this film that could have easily been fixed. But I don't know, it felt kind of rushed and like just inserted into the MCU timeline, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
Like, it just felt like a brick.
A
Yeah, like they had to just put this brick in here and it like filled the place perfectly, but it didn't do anything else.
Right.
It's just like, here you go.
Here's your Black Widow movie.
Here's your Black Widow movie.
Yeah.
It didn't change anything.
Right.
Whereas most MCU films have, some sort of effect on the universe. If you've seen Loki, you'll know what I'm talking about. I mean, Avengers Infinity War, spoiler alert, everyone dies, half of everyone, it's nothing on that level, but it can do a lot of things good, and it failed at a lot of things.
Right,
yeah.
right. Okay, let's get into a bit of story synopsis. So, Natasha Romanoff, also known as Black Widow, confronts the darker parts of her ledger when a dangerous conspiracy with ties to her past arises. Pursued by a force that will stop at nothing to bring her down, Natasha must deal with her history as a spy and the broken relationships left in her wake long before she became an Avenger. Now, reading that synopsis, you'd think this was an origin story. And a lot of people actually went into this film expecting it to be an origin story.
Yeah.
A lot of people think the film is titled Black Widow. Therefore, it's an origin story. We're going to see how Black Widow became Black Widow.
We're going to see her in a black suit.
Right.
No, let's make it white.
So, but instead, this film is if I believe, is set after the events of Civil War and before the events of Infinity War. And obviously they would have to do that because we all know what happens to this character at the end of Endgame. She dies.
Yeah. And I don't think that's ever a good aspect to build a film on. You know, building a film on something that's already kind of met its end,
Right.
never a good idea. Don't do that.
It's like you went through the Dark Knight trilogy, you got to Dark Knight Rises, you did Dark Knight Rises, and then Christopher Nolan was like, okay, we're going to do Batman Begins now.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, what?
Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a weird entry into the whole, you know, MCU timeline in terms of, you know, chronologically speaking. And I feel like Natasha Romanoff's character already had a good send-out in Endgame.
I believe so too.
Why build another film? But, you know, I've always wanted a Black Widow film. It just shouldn't have been made now. It should have been made like...
In phase 1,
8 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
A long time ago, this film should have been made.
This should have been made maybe after Avengers or maybe even before Avengers.
Yeah. I really would have liked a sort of duo film with Hawkeye and Black Widow.
That would have been cool.
But MCU, man, I just can't do that.
Okay, so let's see who is to blame. I mean, who is responsible for this
Whoa!
Let's take a look at who's behind this movie, which is what we do every week. So this is directed by Kate Shortland, an Australian filmmaker.
Oh.
That's cool. And that makes me automatically want to like her.
Yeah.
However, let's take a look at her past work history, okay? So...
You kind of cancel us, man.
Black Widow, it's probably going to be one of the biggest movies of 2021.
Yeah.
The MCU is undoubtedly the most successful franchise in the history of franchises. It's the biggest thing in our time from a cinematic perspective. So you'd think that these directors that they are hiring would be experienced, okay? So let's take a look. I went through Kate Shortland's last 3 films, because she's only done 3 films prior to this, and I hadn't heard of any of them, okay? So automatically that's a bit of a red flag. But however, just because you haven't heard of a film doesn't mean it's a bad film.
Yeah.
There are some really good indie hidden gems out there, right? Unfortunately, Kate Shortland didn't direct any of them. So what I did is I summed the IMDb average of her last 3 films. So I took an average, okay, out of 10.
Wait, including Black Widow?
No. So these are 3 previous films. This is what Marvel's looking at when they're thinking, okay, we need a director for this movie. What's the past work?
Yep.
The average came to 6.7 out of 10. And look, I get that people, like a lot of directors, sometimes their first big movie is the most successful one. And that's obviously the case with Kate Shortland here, but 6.7 out of 10, man. Yeah. Like, I feel like you need... why are prestigious directors not attracted to the MCU?
I know. And I think it's kind of garnered... The MCU's garnered this sort of reputation where it's just complete rubbish that people enjoy.
Yeah, there's no artistic integrity behind it.
And a lot of directors kind of aren't looking for that. And then, you know, when one pops up, Chloe's
it's a huge
out.
deal. Yeah, it's a huge deal.
It's kind of like they want to put their own spin on the MCU, and it doesn't feel like an MCU film. Like no one is excited for Eternals. Who is excited for Eternals?
Just go check out the comments on that trailer if you're in disagreement with us about that.
And it's because they're making a comic book film, like what would you call it? Like some sort of indie. I don't know. They're trying to make a good film.
It just doesn't look
an MCU film. It's
interesting.
If you're going to do an MCU film, just go full force and just make it just complete action and what everyone wants. No one wants to see, oh my God, they look so beautiful. No one wants to see that.
All right. So also, let's take a look at who is responsible for the story, because I feel like this is the main sort of... this is the main sort of issue with the movie.
Okay.
Is what the movie's actually about, okay?
Yeah.
So we have Jack Schaefer, right? And she is she's credited for the story. 2 people are credited for the story. Jack Schaefer's one of them. She was the head writer on WandaVision. And
Great.
Now, that actually scored an 8 out of 10 on IMDb. And that's incredibly high. But as far as TV shows go, the ratings are quite easy.
Yeah.
You know, it's very easy for a TV show, at least, to be
get a high
above a
rating.
7 or something like that.
Yeah.
WandaVision was not good, in my opinion.
Oh, hated it. Absolutely hated it.
The fact that Wanda Maximoff imprisoned all of those people, and at the end it was played as sort of like this, oh, we feel so sorry for Wanda. Wanda should be in prison. So automatically that's a red flag. Okay?
And it just, she's a writer. Was she a writer on WandaVision?
The head writer on WandaVision.
The head writer. So she made the decision of doing the Ralph Boner joke. So automatically, stuff her, man. Like, come on.
Okay. Also, Jack Schaefer has written the movie Hustle. Okay.
Oh, no, I have heard of that.
Yes, you would have, because it stars Rebel Wilson.
Yeah.
And
I've
also
heard.
it also stars Anne Hathaway. Okay. And
Pitch Perfect.
And that one comes in at a 5.4 out of 10 on IMDb.
That's bad for IMDb, man.
And the story is also credited to Ned Benson, who has no previous superhero writing work.
So why hire him?
And the only other thing that I could find that he'd worked on is this low-budget show with James McAvoy, which sits at about a 6.3 out of 10.
So he has somewhat of a tie to superhero films, considering James McAvoy was Professor X. But
he hadn't worked on
on anything. It's just he's got a connection to someone who has worked on them.
So these are people that probably, I'm going to assume, probably did not aspire to be a superhero writer. Mm-hmm. They seem like they've come from different sort of paths and they've been pulled into this universe.
Yeah.
But that's just my assumption. And if I'm wrong, that's okay. The screenwriter for this, okay, this is the last one, okay? The screenwriter for this movie was a man by the name of Eric Pearson. Mm-hmm. Now, he had done Thor Ragnarok. And as far as I'm concerned, that's a pretty decent MCU film. That's something that seems,
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Like, you know, fair enough, hire him. He also did Godzilla vs. Kong. In terms of screenwriting, probably not the strongest.
But it's kind of on the same scale, you know?
I agree.
It's
lots
just
of
big
VFX,
action.
Lots of VFX.
It's a smart choice.
Yeah, that makes sense, right? But unfortunately, if the story is by people who do not get the comic book sort of, you know, universe, then it's not going to be a good film.
Yeah.
This movie is currently sitting on a 3.5 on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
And upon release date, it was sitting at a 3.7. A 3.7 is good. In fact, A Quiet Place Part 2 is sitting on a 3.7.
Yeah.
So the critics, or at least the original movie-going audience that went to see this on day one, think that this is on the same level as A Quiet Place Part 2. Jaden, please tell the viewers how completely insane those people are for thinking that Black Widow is even a fraction of what A Quiet Place Part 2 is.
Look, I mean, everyone has their own opinions, even if they're wrong.
Okay.
Your opinion's wrong here. No, look, everyone can like what they want. I think it's pretty clear, established by both of us, they shouldn't be sitting on the same ranks. A 3.7 for an MCU film is quite good. I think Winter Soldier might have a 3.7, or even Guardians. And they're top tier MCU. And this isn't top tier MCU. There you go, I've told you. It's definitely not on the same level as A Quiet Place, but, you know, everyone's entitled to their own opinion.
But do you think a bias exists in terms
I definitely
of
think
these
a
MCU
bias
movies?
exists in terms of MCU films on Letterboxd as a platform.
Right.
And even if you look through the top reviews, it's like 5-star, 4-star, 4-star, 5-star. And everyone's like hearting it, so you know that like they enjoyed the film. And yeah, in my own opinion, I definitely think it's nowhere near a 5 star. It's very far away from that.
Okay. All right, so let's get into some general thoughts. We're staying spoiler free at the moment, so if you have not seen Black Widow, you are safe to continue listening, and we will tell you when we head into spoiler territory. But Jaden, would you recommend this film to someone who hasn't seen it?
Who hasn't seen it or hasn't seen the MCU?
Hasn't seen the movie. I think a lot of people underestimate this general audience, you know. I was speaking to a friend of mine the other day, and he said he doesn't watch a lot of these MCU movies. His favorite one was Guardians. He watched Guardians 2, didn't really like where it went with the story, but apart from that, he doesn't really care about the shows and everything like this. And to that, I'd say, don't go see this movie. There's 100%. No point.
Yeah, I'll definitely look. If you like action and you just like rubbish story, then you'd probably enjoy this. Like, it's just another action film that comes out. But yeah, I probably wouldn't recommend this to like the average viewer or even like MCU fans. This is probably like the most skippable film. Like, you don't have to watch this to understand any of the timeline, because it just fills in the gap that everyone already knows what happened. Yeah, I definitely think it sets up some things in the future that are going to happen. So if that does happen, just go back and watch the film. But for now, you could probably just skip it. Yeah,
I agree. It will come out to Disney Plus at some stage for free. So just buy your time. And for goodness sake, do not buy it for $30 on Disney Plus.
Oh my God. 35.
35?
It's 35.
Bro, I went to see this movie. It was $20 for the biggest cinema. Biggest screen possible, $20. You're telling me that is less valuable than watching it on that screen?
I think mine was like $12, yeah.
Yeah, well, I would see it in the big.
But I think the reason they do it is because you have to take into account that multiple people could be watching it on the same device.
Yeah, for families, it's a good deal.
Yeah.
Right?
So $35 divided by 2 people, like, that's a good deal.
Yeah.
It's it's still worse than a cinema. Divided by like 3 people.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good deal.
Is this film worth a rewatch? Are you going to go back and see this movie?
I don't go back and see any of the MCU films. It's generally because once you watch one, you kind of have to watch them all, and I don't have the commitment to that as of now. Like, I don't want to watch another 23 films in the next week.
Okay. I've definitely gone back to see MCU films. I've gone back to watch Civil War and Infinity War and Endgame, but not this one.
Yeah. You'll continually skip this one.
Yes. Visuals, what did you think?
Dear God. Look, I think there was some parts that was passable for an MCU film. It just looks like another
muddy
generic
concrete.
Yeah. But there were a lot of really, really bad parts. There's this final
CGI
sequence. Yeah, there's this final sequence, which I won't spoil it for the viewers, but you'll know what I'm talking about. It's this part where 2 characters are kind of talking to each other in... well, it's not a spoiler. The 2, Natasha and Yelenov, or whatever her name is, they're talking to each other. And this is like further along to the end. And the background behind them, man, looks so bad. Like, you can tell it's green screen. It's horrendous. That shouldn't be passing for a film that has a $200 million budget, I think, or something like that. Damn. That is embarrassing.
That is.
Yeah.
But is it on par with Civil War and Winter Soldier?
Yeah. Yeah. None of the MCU films really look good, in my opinion. Even Civil was probably one of the worst, I would think.
In terms of the grey colours.
Yeah, the grey just looks so boring, man. Like, it's dull to look at. The only thing that I can really think looks good is Guardians of the Galaxy. And I think we've had this conversation. It's just because it's like really bright and vibrant.
Yeah.
And it's kind of meant for that because it's all set in outer space. So it should be CGI. Whereas something like
and it's also bright and colourful. There's greens and blues and purples. There's everything.
Whereas something like this, it could easily be shot on film.
Right.
But they just decide not to because they have a $200 million budget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were there any characters or any performances that really stood out to you?
Yes. I loved Florence Pugh in this, man.
Oh, interesting. That's
I
good
think
then.
she was great.
Okay.
Yeah. She was definitely my favorite. Even David Harbour I kind of enjoyed.
Yeah. Is it just me, or was Scarlett Johansson a side character in her own movie?
Yeah. Yeah. It was kind of disrespectful. Like, it felt like they just kind of tried to share the screen time amongst all of them.
I feel like Black Widow almost has a more important role in The Winter Soldier or something like Endgame.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking the other day, she does a lot of very influential things in Endgame. You know, she's the one that comes up with the plan to go to New York.
Yeah.
She's the one that eventually has to sacrifice herself. In this, it's like, this could be any other Avenger. I know that there's the tie back to the origin, but I feel like there was not enough Scarlett Johansson in her own movie.
And, you know, people could probably say, oh, Black Widow doesn't stand for Scarlett Johansson. Black Widow is the organization.
Right.
But, I mean, she's the lead role in the film, man. Like, you got to pay somewhat of more respect to her, considering that it's been way overdue that she should have received this film. Yeah, I definitely feel like she should have received more screen time.
Contrasting to movies like Wonder Woman, I don't think there's a single moment in this movie where I'm like, that is Black Widow. Yes.
Yeah.
I love this. What a fantastic moment. Scarlett Johansson, thank you for being this character.
Yeah. I reckon it's definitely like her weakest role in the MCU thus far.
People are saying that this is her best performance, and personally, I think I have to disagree. I think something like Endgame is perhaps better.
Yeah. I don't know, something about it just felt really weak to me. Her character just kind of seemed like an imposter. Like, it didn't seem like it was the Natasha Romanoff that we've known to love up until this point. I don't know, it kind of seemed weird.
Disappointing. Because, look, in terms of the Avengers, I mean, obviously, you know, you've got to love Iron Man and Captain America.
Yeah.
But Black Widow and Hawkeye as well, very underrated. And I love them just as much as I love, you know, Thor or, you know, or even Spider-Man. Like,
Yeah.
I was very interested to see what they were going to do with this movie because, like, Scarlett Johansson she's made for these sorts of movies, but she's an action star.
Yeah.
A lot of these other MCU actors are not action stars. They just sort of happen to come into this role.
Yeah. Yeah.
Scarlett Johansson and Jeremy Renner as well, between them both, have a vast array of action movies that are fantastic, you know? So they are skilled enough to take on and really embrace an action movie. But they've not been given the chance until now.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not particularly her fault. It's more so she wasn't given the right material to be able to perform to the standard that we want. Like, that's on the part of Kate Shortland and her team, not giving her...
Even the producer level, I know Kevin Feige's a god, but he's got to be blamed for this.
I know.
You know, this is a character that should have had her first movie in at least phase 1, or at least phase 2, really.
Yeah.
Because, you know, sure, I know a lot of people didn't know who Black Widow was, but do more people know who Captain Marvel is?
More people didn't know who Iron Man was, man.
Yeah.
Iron Man, when they first made the first Iron Man, no one knew who the character was. MCU kind of, what would you say? They popularized the character. I mean, it was the weirdest choice in terms of comic book characters ever.
Yeah.
No one knew who he was. So choosing Black Widow as one of the first phase 1 films should have been no problem at all. The MCU was capable of doing it, but they just decided not to.
Do you think this movie, so exact same storyline, should have, instead of being released now, should have been released in the Captain Marvel spot between Infinity War and Endgame? Or perhaps even just before Infinity War, like it should have been.
No, I think it...
Taking that Ant-Man spot. Actually, no, that's before Civil War.
I think inserting it between Infinity War and Endgame probably wouldn't have done it any better. I definitely think it should have been early MCU, because then you have the time to, like, set up till her death. Like, you've got a vast amount of time.
Sure.
So it's not just kind of a film where it's like anything that happens in this film just kind of doesn't matter anymore. It's just, it doesn't feel useless and just not a part of what we've come to discover.
For sure.
Because after, you know she's going to die. So all the consequences that happen in the film, it's just kind of like, oh.
Yeah, there's no tense. I mean, and usually in the MCU, when you're watching Winter Soldier, you're not like, oh, Captain America's not in it. Like, you're thinking, oh, I'm not expecting Captain America to die here because he's going to be in the next Avengers movie.
Yeah.
But it is quite dramatic that the impact of just knowing that the character she's dead.
Yeah.
And it's like Kevin Feige's like, oh, but let's just go back for a second because I should have done this movie earlier, but now it's cool to do female-led superhero movies, so I'm going to do it now and pretend like I'm breaking walls, but really I'm not.
DC was miles ahead of him.
Wonder Woman's still the best female-led superhero
100%,
movie.
man. 100%. And even then, it's not that good. Like,
no, okay.
You're comparing it to other female-led films.
No, I think Wonder Woman's one of the best DCU films, period. Like,
oh, yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. But even then, it's still not that good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, in terms of sound for Black Widow, let's move the conversation along. What was your thoughts on the music, the sound design, if there was any, and any other thoughts you have about audio?
Really, really hated the title sequence. Come on, man. Like, you choose the most generic song to ever be played. It Smells Like Teen Spirit by Nirvana. Come on, choose something else. Everyone's heard of this song, and then you put it in this stupid-ass cover version that, like, is an acoustic version, and it's like, God, that makes it even worse. It's like, at least pay tribute to the original band. I hated that, man.
This is the same band that is used in the Batman trailer, right?
Yeah, Nirvana. Yeah.
What?
What was the song played there?
I'm not sure.
I can't remember now, but that song is so much better suited in the Batman trailer. Something in the Way, because it's the original band and it's a song that not many people know. This song is so overused, man. And it's not a bad song by any means. It's just so overused. And then you chuck it in like in a generic action film. It just feels like a joke. And like it just keeps on going, hello, 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 hello.
Yeah, I was a bit annoyed about the hellos. I haven't heard this song before, but I still didn't like it. Look, I feel like that entire sequence was pretty terrible. But we'll touch on that when we get into that. Any thoughts on the original music, the score? Because there was one, by the way.
Didn't even pay attention to it, man.
Yeah, it's forgettable. Yeah. Instantly forgettable.
That's the thing with MCU films.
There's no Black Widow theme, you know? There's no distinctive music that comes on when Scarlett Johansson's doing something really, really cool.
Yeah, compare this to like a Wonder Woman's theme. Think how cool that was, bro. This film has like no memorable music, and that's just with all MCU films really, taking out Alan Silvestri's Avengers theme. I couldn't name another theme that is like somewhat good.
Yeah.
They're all forgettable. Yeah.
All right. We're going to head into some spoiler territory now. If you have not seen the movie Black Widow, go and see it if you would like to before returning here, because we are about to head into spoiler territory and we do not want to spoil this movie for you because there are quite a few reveals that will significantly impact your viewing experience. Yeah. So, goodbye now.
Bye.
The first 30 minutes of this movie is complete and utter trash. Okay, so let's talk about that.
Yeah.
We start off with a child actor sort of sequence set in the early the early 90s. Or the 1900s or whatever. Wait.
1900s.
The 90s, right? It was the 90s.
Early
right?
90s, probably. Yeah.
So
I mean, you had Nirvana playing to it.
So we have this child actor who looks absolutely nothing like Scarlett Johansson. Yeah. She has blue hair as well. And look, I get... So we're supposedly supposed to figure out that this is a young Black Widow, okay? So you're starting off your movie with a child actor sequence.
Mm-hmm.
Big no-no, okay? Another movie I've watched semi-recently was called Never Let Me Go. It was a really good movie starring Andrew Garfield, Keira Knightley, all these fantastic actors and actresses. Started off with a child actor sequence. Not good. The rest of the movie, spectacular. As soon as we've gone to the adult stuff.
Yep.
It's a really weak way to start your movie with children who, you know, you can't demand a particularly dramatic performance from.
Yeah.
And additionally, it doesn't help when you have to make the child actors look exactly like the character that we know. Otherwise, we're not going to know that they're supposed to be that character.
Yeah.
So giving them blue hair, while I get that she's a child and she's probably like, you know, being adventurous and, you know, the rebellious teenager or whatever, dyeing her hair. That's completely okay. But this is a movie and we need to realize quickly, because I realized that the blonde one was Yelena.
Yeah, I had no idea. I didn't realize until they like basically said their names. I was like, which one is the Black Widow? I have no idea which one's Natasha. And then it went on to like the whole they landed at the airport plane sequence and it was like, don't take Yelena away from me. I was like, oh, okay, so she's Natasha.
Yeah.
It's like it took that long to set up which one was the main character, and it's like, come on, that's like basic filmmaking.
Yeah, look, the entire sequence is far too long and it has plot holes already, you know. So this is the Russian family who's like Justice League, Justice League PTSD there for a second. So we have this like Russian spy pretending to be a family sort of situation, and then S.H.I.E.L.D. finds them. So S.H.I.E.L.D. is like chasing them off American soil. They get in a plane. The dad is hanging on to the wing of the plane. That's not possible, man. Like, you can't hold on. I don't care how strong you are.
I don't even think he was holding on.
Yeah, he was
shooting a gun.
He was on the...
How was he holding on?
And so they fly off, right? Because obviously S.H.I.E.L.D. don't have aircraft or helicopters to chase after them.
Yep, they go into an airport, and guess what? They
S.H.I.E.L.D.
don't bring aircraft.
And the dad's still on the wing of the plane. And I'm like, how is he going to get back into the plane?
Yeah.
Like, do you go and land somewhere else? Because we didn't see that. One moment he's on the wing and the next moment he's inside the plane.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do? You're hanging on to the side. You don't want to let go. Otherwise you are dead, my friend. Like, no one's going to come and be able to pick you up. So what is he, like, crawling in through the window or something? Like,
I think there was a door there. But in saying that, like...
He's hanging on to the side of a moving plane.
How do you get into the plane from that angle? Like, yeah, you can get away with it because he's a superhero, but come on, make it more realistic at least.
Look, it was really, really boring, but then thankfully some explosions came in, and I was like, oh, thank you. You know, this at least is something interesting.
Yeah.
But then just the way they go about it, it just creates plot holes in the first couple minutes of your film, and we're not even in the plot yet. This is exposition. This is trying to tell us a bit of backstory.
Imagine having plot holes in your exposition.
Yeah, this is a plot hole in your plot explanation.
That's when you know something's bad. Some of the writing was terrible in this. It was horrendous.
Okay, let's go to that credit sequence, man. You've watched the David Fincher film Seven. Fantastic opening sequence. This was trying so hard to be like that.
It felt like a rip-off.
The key, I think, with David Fincher's style is that when he does an opening credit sequence, it's always really interesting, but it's always very subtle. In this, we have this outrageous song turned up all the way full max volume.
Yep.
We have constant cuts to different exposition. It's like, boom, Bill Clinton, boom, Russian president, boom, Natasha's 7, boom, Natasha's 12. I'm like, why are you giving me a movie in the opening credits sequence, man? Like,
I was like, is this her like becoming a Black Widow? What's going on?
Yeah.
Like, I had no idea.
And like, you have all these like wannabe like James Bond-esque like pointing the gun, and I'm like, it's trying to be everything. But then they're constantly cutting the shots, and I'm like, it was really quite offensive.
Think
to
about
my
how
brain.
many shots they would have had to use in this opening sequence.
was
How
cut,
much
cut,
money
cut,
that would
cut.
have blown. It's like they have to film every single one of those scenes. It's not like they took them from other parts in the film. They were specifically made for the introduction. What a waste of money.
And it was just cut. I'm like, I can't keep up with any of this.
Yeah.
It's like, you know those those books that like if you have like
A
similar
flip page.
pictures, then you just flick it through.
Yeah.
That's what they were trying to do with Natasha's origin. And I'm
And
like,
then you like skip a few pages and it's like, oh, I just lost like part of my whole film there.
yeah. I mean, just disgraceful, man. Like, they were trying so hard, and I almost respect the fact that they're trying. We've never really gotten an open credit sequence like this in an MCU film. But my gosh, it's like they have the subtlety of a jackhammer, and they're just
The subtlety of a jackhammer.
they're just going and going, and I'm like, this is a simple way to fix this. Cut about like 70 of the shots out.
Yeah.
Make it a bit slower. Turn the music down. In fact, just get a different song altogether.
Yeah.
Make it a bit disturbing. Like set the tone for the movie. Like, this is some horrible stuff that is going on with these Black Widows.
Yeah.
You know, make it a bit more James Bond-esque in the subtlety aspect. You know, have cool images, but don't try tell us the entire backstory of this character that we've known for like. How long have we known Natasha for? When was Iron Man 2? Like,
Iron Man 2 was 2010, I think.
bro, like 11 years, man.
I know.
And they're trying to tell us the origin in like a 3-minute, because the credit sequence just kept on going,
It
bro.
didn't
I'm
stop.
like,
I
when-
started laughing in the credit sequence. I was like, yeah, I remember Sam saying this was bad. Anyways, before we get like too wrapped up on this,
let's move on.
Yeah.
Oh, you were going to say something?
No, I wasn't going to say anything.
Okay.
I don't have any notes. I'm
right.
relying on you here.
Okay, another thing I noticed really quickly was at the start there was a lot of jumping around. It reminded me a bit of Rogue One, a Star Wars story, in the aspect where Natasha's in this country, Natasha's in that country. I get she's on the run, but
Yeah.
big white font on the screen telling us the location. It's like boom.
Budapest.
It's like boom, Norway.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, you don't need to like fill the whole screen.
And that's a
do you?
recurring thing in MCU films.
If they do it in Civil
I
War,
know. It's the same font as well.
it's like boom. I'm
Yeah.
like, well, that's straight from Civil War,
Like
isn't
just
it?
have like a little thing in the bottom corner.
Yeah.
Norway.
Norway. Yeah.
Oh,
Instead of it's like,
boom, Norway.
because I'm like, oh my gosh, we're in Norway.
Also, how annoying was like the constant use of like Budapest. Like they just wanted to flex that they know how to pronounce Budapest. Is that even how you pronounce it?
I didn't even know, man. Like,
Yeah.
maybe, perhaps. I mean, I guess.
They said it like 20 times. It's like, actually, it's Budapest.
Instead of actually telling us what happened in Budapest, they told us how to pronounce the word.
Yeah. Fans have been waiting so long to hear about this Budapest story.
And we didn't.
We didn't hear about it.
All we know, we get this little moment where Natasha's telling Yelena that she was stuck in a vent with Clint for like a week or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So this movie should have been what happened in Budapest.
Mm-hmm.
It should have had Hawkeye and
Should have had Hawkeye in it. Man.
and you can still make it a Black Widow movie with
know.
Hawkeye in it as a supporting character.
Yeah. Red Guardian was, I don't know, it just felt kind of weird placed into this film. Like, yeah, it's the father, but what did the character add to the whole plot, if you know what I mean? Like, I like the character.
He's
I
a
like
joke.
It's just, it felt really weird in this film. Like, he didn't have much screen time, and as they explained, it would have been a really cool, like, plot device if they had, like, kind of set up his character as, like, sort of jealous of Captain America's fame and
That was
stuff.
some really cool stuff that
I know.
he was saying there.
But they just didn't go that direction with it. They made him, like, kind of a joke. And I think the character's cool, and David Harbour's a great actor. And then you just kind of waste the potential of it.
I was thinking like, ooh, like this, if he actually fought Captain America, that's interesting. And, you know, it's interesting that Russia created the equivalent of the American
It's cool, right?
soldier.
Yeah.
Like, it makes perfect sense. You know, Russia have been doing that with America for
Ages,
years and years. So it would make sense, but it just goes nowhere. It's played as a joke because he wants to know if Captain America's ever mentioned him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why? Okay, look, I know I've been sort of critical of the director already, but perhaps this is going on the director of photography, but this is one of the worst shot movies I've ever seen in my entire life, especially action movies, because there are moments in this movie where I was thinking, you know what, maybe I need to stop trying to analyze it and just sit back, relax, enjoy it. And then I would be presented with a shot where Yelena is standing on a building.
I didn't see this shot.
The camera's not even on her, and she falls, and the camera stays at this random building, which we know is not a real building, it's CGI.
Yeah.
It's a green screen.
Yeah.
Why is the camera there?
I didn't see it. I remember you talking about it, and I was kind of
right
watching
at the
out
start
for it.
before she stabs the chick.
I would have thought it would be around that sequence, but I didn't see it. Yeah.
And by the way, she stabs someone with a knife in the chest, twists the knife, and then there's no blood.
Yeah, I was looking for the blood.
Yeah, same.
But then I kind of realized, oh, hold up, this is an MCU film. This isn't Zack Snyder.
Apparently, I was listening to a reviewer, and he took his 8-year-old son to go see the movie, and his 8-year-old son turned to him and he's like, "Dad, there's no blood. That's stupid."
Oh my god.
This is an 8-year-old, bro.
Yeah. Look, before we get into too many negatives, I want to know what you thought of Florence Pugh's portrayal of Yelenov or whatever her name is.
Yeah, look, I think it was charismatic.
Yeah.
And she did the best that she could.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are saying that they're extremely excited to see her again. Look, I'm indifferent. I don't really...
Really?
No, not really.
Yeah.
Like, I get that she's funny, but I feel like some of the jokes were, you know, could have been dealt with a bit
better.
more subtlety.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the time she's just hammering a joke on and on. It felt like she was the comic relief of the movie.
Okay.
Even though in these MCU movies, everyone is comic relief in the movies.
Mm-hmm.
However, you know, she's obviously going to be the next Black Widow. That was apparent from the very first time we saw her.
I think it was apparent from the very first time she was announced as the casting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, look, sure, you know, I'll be interested to see what they do with that character. From this movie, it seems like they were more interested in that character than they were in Black Widow.
Yeah.
So, and look, I think she has the charisma for the role. Mm-hmm. She's quite funny, very charming. Sure.
Yeah.
Let's see what she can do in the future.
I think she's going to appear in the Hawkeye series.
Oh, yeah. That seems like what the post-credits was saying.
Yeah. And it seems like, whatever her name is at the end, is it Elaine or something?
Yeah, the chick from the Winter Soldier show.
I can't remember her name. I don't know what she's trying to do. Is she like trying to set up like this band of like misfits or something?
Yeah, I don't know.
She's got John Walker.
Yeah.
And now she's getting Yelena. It's like an odd mix of people. What are they doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess stay tuned for the next Marvel project.
I couldn't care less about that, man. I think her character was pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, me too.
And let it be noted that this is not bias because of Florence Pugh. I legitimately think her performance was pretty good.
Yeah.
Stand out from the film.
She was the best part of the movie, I think.
Yeah.
However, I think some of the praise has been a bit overblown.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of like...
Her character or the film?
In terms of like her character in the film.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people are saying like, oh, her performance is so good. Like, I can't wait to see... And look, if you can't wait to see her in future projects, that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know, let's not get carried away.
Yeah. It's no Iron Man. It's just, I feel like it's a semi-well-done replacement for Natasha's character.
Sure, yeah. Which is very large shoes to fill.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to... let me just briefly mention, there's shaky cam in this movie. Get it out of the action movies, man. I don't know why they do it anymore. I want to see what's going on.
Uh-huh.
when you shake the camera, I cannot see anything.
I think shaky cam works effectively if you know what you're doing. Like it's not a bad camera technique. It's just lot of people just sit there with the film and do this. Like
in terms of action sequences, like sure, and like when think of movies like Seven, right? At the end of Seven, whenever like the very end where Kevin Spacey's on the ground and the camera around him is very stable. Yeah. And then when it goes to Brad Pitt, it's shaking and it's unstable. Yeah. That's awesome use.
Yeah.
But in action, sometimes shaking the camera can create a bit of more confusion that's actually supposed to confuse the audience to get through an emotional point but this is just like I can't see anything.
Yeah. I think a lot of the time it's kind of used to hide up a lot of stuff, like cover up a lot of stuff, like the stunt doubles and the bad CGI. Just shaking your camera just kind of eliminates all of that, and it works well if you know how much shake to use.
Yeah.
But a lot of them just overuse it, and to the point where like you can't even notice the choreography. Yeah.
Let's talk about Taskmaster. Let me first ask you this, okay?
Yeah.
What did you think of the fact that Taskmaster mimics people's movements because of this tech sort of visor that he has in reference to...
She has.
We're
in spoiler region.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In contrast that with the comics, where he is just a very determined man who studies the Avengers and can learn their tips, and he has a photographic memory as well.
I think it's more like an eidetic memory, but yeah, I think I hate how films do this. They take agenda and just flip it. And, I'm not against a female playing this part of a role, this big of a role in a film, because a lot of the times I really enjoy it when it happens. But it's a problem when you take a character like Taskmaster and just make it a female. Why are you making it a female, man? You've got other characters in Marvel's slate that could be used instead of Taskmaster and just flipping the gender. Why, man? Why do you have to flip the gender?
Yeah.
The character is originally a male. And it's here's an argument, right? Imagine if you made Black Widow a man. Everyone would flip out. They'd be like, holy moly. But you do it the other way, and it's just completely different. And I've got a problem with that. And I've got a problem with they changed the character as well. They didn't just change the gender, they changed the character.
Let me jump in here and say this. This is the first MCU movie that has taken absolutely no influence from the comics in terms of the storyline.
Yeah.
And obviously you have Black Widow, who's a comic character, and Taskmaster, who's a comic character. Everything else, original. And look, that's cool. We're at a stage now where, we're probably running out of comics to adapt.
Well, there is a lot of comics.
We're not. But in terms of...
Don't try to justify it, man.
Yeah. You can create something new as long as it's good.
Yeah. And I mean, you're taking characters that we haven't seen before. So it's not like you've run out of their backstory. You've got a whole Taskmaster backstory that you just decided to overlook.
How about my question in terms of, instead of this character relying on himself and his biological gift of being able to memorize people's movements, as opposed to, I've got this tech visor.
Yeah.
What do you think that's not the way to go with the character? Like, I've just got a cool visor, because technically I could put on the visor and then I could be Taskmaster.
Yeah. It kind of deflates the whole character's backstory, right? Where, like, she doesn't really have her own, like, sort of memory or, like, a vision.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, anyone could just put on the helmet and boom, they're Taskmaster.
Yeah, like, at least that's what it seems.
Yeah, I would have liked it if she had sort of had this photographic / eidetic memory where like she could analyze people's movements and they sort of look at the little minuscule parts and analyze that.
Yeah.
That would have been cool. But instead they just made it some generic technology where the technology analyzes movements. It's just a boring plot device, man. And the film just opts out for a lot of cool stuff and just replaces it with generic stuff.
I feel like the MCU sort of has a problem of over-relying on tech.
Yeah.
I think we've seen this with the Spider-Man movies, and we're seeing it now with this character. Instead of crafting perhaps an emotional and, some sort of motivation for the character to try really hard at perfecting a human trait or something.
Yeah.
The determination that it would take to study the Avengers.
Yeah.
And because they have a vendetta against the Avengers or something.
Yeah.
Instead, it's like, oh, I've got a cool mask.
Yeah.
That's it. By the way, what did you think of the actual suit?
I didn't mind it. It's pretty comic accurate in terms of its visual appearance. I just think the comic character looks really stupid.
Yeah.
It's a skull that has a hoodie on and it has
it's not
sword and a shield.
Yeah, pretty stupid.
It definitely doesn't have any place in this film, and it's kind of like Red Guardian in that aspect. Like, there's so many other characters that you could have used, but you used the weirdest character. It's just weird, man.
When you first saw that flashback sequence of the daughter being blown up by Natasha, did you immediately put it together that that would be Taskmaster?
See, this is hard because I went into this film knowing who it was because you told me, and make it.
Oh, right.
Let me make it clear that I asked to be told. Yeah. So I can't really speak on the fact that like I knew or I didn't. But I think from a general aspect, it probably would have been pretty clear that it was Taskmaster.
I noticed straight away. Yeah. As soon as I saw that little girl in the window, I'm like, that's Taskmaster, isn't it?
And it's also because they don't show any other angle of it.
Yeah.
It's like, here's two people, they've died in quotation marks, but you don't know that.
Let's get this straight, okay? Black Widow just blew up. Like an 8-year-old girl. And that's okay.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine in terms of the movie's morality. I think this is where the WandaVision writer comes in. Because it's the same thing I've had with WandaVision in terms of the problem there. As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, that's going to be Taskmaster. I have no idea how that bomb can only scar her face and not kill her father, who was also in the room with her.
Who left unscathed.
Yeah,
no
he's
damage.
Perfectly fine, no scars or anything. But even her, like some little scars on her face.
This bomb was.
It was
in
huge.
Her bag. It was in her bag.
Huge.
It was placed right in front of it on the table. Boom. That would have torn someone to shreds. But somehow she has a burn mark on her face.
Let's get into, I think, the most offensive part of this entire movie, okay?
Yeah.
So, Taskmaster...
Brace yourselves.
Let me ask you this, okay? And don't... Just give me your honest response, okay? Even if you think it might sound a bit dodgy. What gender did Taskmaster look like until the reveal?
Male.
Why is that?
I think just the posture of like the actor and the way that they walk.
Yes, because males and females walk differently.
Yeah, they walk differently. It just came across as male, and like the proportions of like the suit and the shoulders looked really big.
Yeah.
It just came across as a male, and I don't know whether it's because maybe a male might have done the stunts in the suit. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Taskmaster in this movie, except for that one shot where she takes her helmet off, is played by male stunt double.
Oh my God.
So this means that every single moment where Taskmaster is in this movie, it is played by a male. And in fact, the most outrageous thing is that even in that scene where they're all in the same room and Natasha is about to see the reveal,
Yep.
there's a shot of male Taskmaster, and then it cuts back to Black Widow. Then it goes back to Taskmaster, and it is female Taskmaster. And someone has taken a photo of male Taskmaster and put it against female Taskmaster. Female Taskmaster is, like, at least significantly shorter, narrower, and, like, less intimidating.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
That's really messed up.
In fact, as well, another thing, one person has taken a screen clip from the movie in a fight scene, and it is clear that Taskmaster is packing.
Yeah. That is so bad, bro. Holy moly.
In terms of realism in your movie, you can't do that.
Why couldn't a female do that, man?
Exactly. Why did they think that
A male
had to?
Yeah.
Do they think that a male
this
couldn't?
proves that the rewatch is not sexist.
Because if you're gonna shock us with this reveal,
Yeah.
then make it a female the whole time, for God's sakes. Like, have the guts.
That's messed up, man.
Yeah.
Whoever wrote that and whoever made that decision they've got some stuff to
some serious explaining to do, because that is borderline sexist in my opinion. Because if you want to portray this menacing character, why can't a built female do that?
Yeah, a female can be just as menacing.
Think of Gina Carano in The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't want to fight Gina Carano.
No.
She's huge.
She's
She would
massive.
throw us
She would
around
destroy
the
me,
room.
bro.
She would snap us in half.
She would manhandle me.
Exactly. So, why?
Yeah.
Why?
That is a
why?
seriously messed up creative decision in terms of Marvel, and I reckon they've got something to answer for that. Is that the thing that was gonna blow my mind? Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. That's disrespectful and disgraceful on so many fronts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, just to touch on briefly, we also have a lot of unwarranted jokes in this movie that really cut through the tension, particularly when Natasha's driving her car. Her car gets RPG'd, rolls several times. Natasha comes out unscratched.
Yep.
She's completely fine, even though her car just got blown up. And she continues to start making jokes. She says, like, oh, I shoot straighter when I get pissed off.
Yeah. Why did they kind of treat her like a superhero in this film? I mean, yeah, she is a superhero.
I agree.
But why did they treat her as a person with superpowers? There's this one point where they're on this like smokestack, and then they like kind of like push it, and then they go to like another building, and then Natasha like holds like the windowsill, and then like she like falls like 20 stories and like does like a superhero landing. It's like she's just a regular person.
Like, that would break your legs, bro.
No marks, nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. This film completely ignores like the bounds of like human biology.
Right.
People should be exploding. People should be breaking their legs. No one dies, no blood. In fact, I think the only person that we see die in this film is the person that Yelena kills at the start. We don't see anyone else die. We just see like fire explosions cover it up, and like the camera doesn't show the right angle. So bad, man. So bad.
Okay, let's go to that avalanche scene in the snow area. It's when we're introduced to the Red Guardian again. He's doing some arm wrestling.
Yep.
He's getting tattooed while he does this. Now, anyone who knows the slightest bit about tattooing is you have to be incredibly still for it to be effective.
Yeah.
He's getting a tattoo while he's moving around. There's the tattoo artist sitting behind him, like doing it on his back, while he's like,
there's gonna be some messed up lines.
moving and breaking people's wrists and stuff. It's like, has the director not gotten a tattoo? Like, has anyone on the set gotten a tattoo? Has the guy who's doing that did he research? Like,
I feel like there's a lot of
stupid
decisions in this film that everyone just kind of, it just goes over their head. It's like, it looks cool, so we'll let it pass. But
it makes him look tough.
Yeah. Is that creatively
necessary,
or is that creatively like appropriate? Does that actually make any sense? No. If you look into it more, this film just has a lot of stuff that just doesn't make sense. It's just a bunch of baloney.
Like, for example, when an RPG hits the prison tower and then an avalanche just happens.
Yeah. Did
It just
the
happens.
RPG cause the avalanche?
No, well, yes, but why?
Why?
No, it does.
And why is the avalanche like all around? Like it's the whole.
Why would you build a
mountain.
prison there, bro? Like that seems like a very dangerous thing. And you know, if they do indirectly cause this avalanche, those prison guards and those prison dogs that they showed at one stage,
Yeah.
those prison men who I'm sure haven't been sentenced to life and don't deserve death.
Yeah.
All of them just died, bro, and nobody cares. We're all making jokes about it.
But you don't see anyone die.
Yeah, but they all do. They all would have. Every single one of them, bro, because that was a huge avalanche, man.
It's not like you just run inside either and they're safe. Like that avalanche would have destroyed the building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of those people would have died.
Yeah.
And the mum tortures a pig. Why does the mum torture a pig?
I don't understand that. Like, is it like a mechanically enhanced pig? What?
Yeah. So, I'm really struggling here.
Yeah.
So, this movie wants us to believe that this is an action spy thriller, a grounded action spy thriller. That's half of this movie. The other half is complete and utter bull. They want us to believe that they have this mind control power that can be used by this guy who has an iPad or this woman who has an iPad
Yep.
that can just make you stop breathing.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. not to forget about like the face things that like completely change someone's appearance. Like,
Oh yeah,
Ooh.
the mask.
I'm the Black Widow.
But bro, let's talk about this mum for one sec, because she's apparently guilty for working with this big bad guy, the Harvey Weinstein big bad white guy.
Robert De Niro.
Yes, and she's complicit in these crimes. She admits to being, working for this. She's actually responsible for the enslavement of Natasha and Yelena.
Yeah.
Does she answer for her crimes at any stage in this entire movie?
No.
No.
Oh, I feel
She tortures a pig, man.
I don't know. A lot of things in this film, a lot of the character decisions just have no motivation. Like, I was just constantly questioning myself, like, why is the mum evil? It seemed like in the first part of the film, she actually loved her children. And it's like, why would she work with this evil dude? It makes absolutely no sense.
And when they first show up to the house, she calls the Red Room.
Yeah.
But then later on, she admits to calling the Red Room and then embarks on a plan to destroy the Red Room.
Yeah, so did she tell them about the plan? Did she tell them about how the plan was to do this and that? Or did she just say, I called the Red Room, let's figure this out
I'm
now.
about to slam my nose on this table, just like Natasha did, mate.
Also, just skipping ahead a bit, the whole sort of pheromone thing is like what are they called? Like not mitochondria. What are like the things from Star Wars that like make the force?
Metachlorians?
It's like the whole metachlorian thing where it's just like, why does the pheromones control them, bro? That is like the worst creative decision I've ever seen.
Bro, his superpower is that if you smell him, you can't kill him.
Yeah. At a point there, like when Natasha was like trying to like punch him or stab him or something, I was like, what's holding her back, bro? Like, what's happening here? And it's like...
And then he has to explain it. He's like, oh, let me tell you.
Yeah.
Let me tell you why you can't kill me.
Yeah. I think the villains in this film were just absolutely horrendous. Both of them were terrible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bottom tier MCU.
Oh,
like literally,
for sure.
I struggle to think of worse villains.
So boring as well. Like if you
They could be anyone. They could be a generic bad man and his sidekick, who could be Hawkeye under mind control.
Yep.
He could be Taskmaster. He could be Captain America. There's no individuality about any of these goddamn characters in this entire movie, man.
Yeah. Who was the guy from The Winter Soldier with like the glasses?
The
The
really
short guy. And he also appeared in the first Captain America.
Robert Redford's character, the ginger one.
Nah, the evil dude who like tortured the Winter Soldier. You know, the German dude.
The computer guy.
Yeah.
The one that gets stuck in the computer.
Whatever his name is. This character in Black Widow, the old guy, it feels like a rip-off version of him.
Right.
Whereas the one from Winter Soldier was done so much better. Like, I genuinely felt like he was an evil dude.
Yeah.
This dude just felt like he was just having fun with all these women, just mind controlling them.
Yeah.
It's the most boring thing I've ever heard, man. Yeah.
And he controls the universe from his iPad. Wow.
Yeah, wow.
So
and he needs a ring to go into the server and...
Okay, a lot of people have said that this is a copy of Winter Soldier, and I completely agree. Let's go through the similarities.
Yep.
There's a foreign power that has infiltrated, civilian rights.
Uh-huh.
There's a big floating HQ in the sky that the good guy has to go and blow up at the end of the film. The good guy has to fight a disillusioned person from their past.
Yep. Bucky.
Yes.
I didn't even realize.
And at the end, the two reconcile and they go on their separate ways.
Oh my god. Marvel's ripping off their own stuff. Hey, the Winter Soldier worked, right? Why don't we just do that again?
But worse.
But this time, we don't make it anything like that film.
Yeah.
We change everything.
Look, I think this film is really torn between wanting to be a Winter Soldier, a spy, action thriller. And then it's like someone else came in and they were like, here's some, like, the thrown out plot of Guardians Volume 2 or something.
I like this idea from the previous film. Why don't we mix that with this Winter Soldier idea and just kind of combine them? Because that's what Scarlett Johansson's character deserves. Man, that's so disrespectful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And back to Taskmaster, I will say this. The character is under mind control. Mm-hmm. So they have no agency. They have no motivation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I ask you this question, Jane.
Yeah.
If you were in a room, okay, imagine your dad is like this guy, this really evil person, right?
Yeah.
But he's your dad.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are you going to do? You're going to like leave him? No, he's your dad. You're going to stick with him.
Yeah.
You try change him, but whatever. When you're 8 years old, someone blows your face half to hell. Mm-hmm. Your dad's fine though, but they tried to kill your dad. How would that make you feel?
I feel kind of messed up.
Would you perhaps want to seek revenge against that person that tried to kill you and your father?
Probably.
Even though your father's a terrible person.
Probably, The fact that they tried to blow me up might add to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But instead, you're just under mind control.
Yeah.
And when you're off mind control, you actually you don't care about your dad.
I still don't care.
It doesn't matter whether he brought you into this world or not.
Yeah.
Like, family isn't important, guys.
Yeah.
So, like...
Whoa. Dom Toretto is somewhere out there, like, cringing right now, man.
Dom Toretto is flying past this movie in terms of the box office, I tell you. So, there's an automatic way. Perhaps Taskmaster's under mind control, and Black Widow thinks, okay, I just need to get her off this mind control, and then she's going to be fine. Gets her off the mind control. Psych, Taskmaster still wants to kill her. At least that makes it interesting, because it gives the character actual intention and motivations.
Yeah. It made sense for a moment.
Instead, it's just like, oh, here's some red pixie dust. Oh, we're all friends now.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that I blew your face up.
Yeah. And what's the whole idea with this, like, this pixie dust
with
stuff?
red poof gas.
Like this whole the whole theory that like they were mind controlled. Man, come on, that's so boring. It's already been done.
Because it does take out the agency of the characters, because if they were brainwashed, maybe they grew up, thinking this, and instead of giving this red dust that we're told fixes all the problems in the movie.
Yeah.
Poof, here's the dust. You're okay. Oh, movie ends. Yeah, we're all friends.
Yeah.
How about instead, like, it's about changing their perspective or, you know, doing something, showing them that this is not the right way to do things. Or whatever, man. Like, just
I would have just preferred if they hadn't, like, put Taskmaster in this film and focused on the relationship between the daughter and Natasha and the father. Like, that whole sort of concept. But instead, they kind of go full dive into this whole mind control bending sort of stuff with pixie dust, and like the daughter is somewhat of like this meta-human. Oh man, it's just a bunch of like rubbish just chucked together.
I don't think Black Widow's actual past was explored deeply enough in this movie. However, we're told that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
You know, we're going to find out what happened in Budapest.
Yeah.
We're going to find out about the Black Widows. Do you feel like we had a comprehensive study of what makes Black Widow Black Widow?
I was kind of like promised something and I just didn't receive what I wanted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every single suit in the movie is terrible. Why is Black Widow in a white suit? What a stupid idea. That's like making Black Panther's suit white or Scarlet Witch's suit blue.
Look, it doesn't make sense on paper, but it looks cool, right?
It does. And they do get rid of it.
And I think it's the whole fact that it's like meant to be in this snowy terrain, so they have to be undercover, sort of.
Sure. She does have red hair, though.
I'm going to let them get away with this one.
On that point, can I just say, this is the worst Scarlett Johansson's hair's ever looked.
Yeah. I loved her hair in Iron Man.
The wig in this is terrible.
I know.
Because obviously she is wearing a wig in all of the films.
Yeah.
This one looks unnatural for some reason. It looks like it's not... Like, it just looks like they got a worse makeup artist or something. Because it looks
it's not like placed correctly.
Yeah, it doesn't... It doesn't really feel natural.
Yeah.
And so I ask of you, what's peak ScarJo hair for you?
Oh, I'd probably have to say Iron Man 2 with like the sort of curls.
The curls, right.
Yeah. And that whole like fight sequence with Happy when they like infiltrate that building.
Right.
And that's when like she does like the iconic
pose.
Like the pose.
Yeah.
Dear God, they went how they just kept referencing this.
They just turned that into it. They just completely wanted to ruin that moment for some reason. I don't know why, but
they're like they're making fun of Jon Favreau. That's what they're doing. It's like, because Jon Favreau made that decision. He's like, okay, this is going to look really cool if she does like this pose. And then Kate Shortland comes along like 11 years later and she's like, I'm just going to make fun of that. I'm just going to have...
It's like they have a personal vendetta against it. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
It looked really cool. Like,
I know. Just enjoy it, man.
Like, only Deadpool can do that.
It's better than what you made. And then someone comes along like 10 years later and is like, remember that time where like Natasha Romanoff like jumped out of this like building and like skydived?
Oh, at one stage, bro, she just jumps straight out of this glass window and she doesn't have a parachute or anything. Yeah. And I'm like, bro, you're gonna die.
Yeah.
And then she just like falls, grabs onto the ledge, boom.
Yeah.
Stays onto the ledge. Her arms do not pop out of her sockets at all.
No, because she's a superhuman.
She's very strong, isn't she?
And then they have this like whole skydiving sequence,
oh.
and then at one point it's like they've got the camera like facing the ground, and it looks like they are ages away from the ground.
Yeah.
And then like 2 seconds later, it's like, oh my God, they're on the ground. It happens so quick. Like we had no time to witness them. Like, oh my God, is she gonna like get on the parachute? There's no tension. It's just boom, they're on the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were some like generic bad guys who'd fallen, and they don't have parachutes, but they're falling to their deaths.
Yeah.
But they're still shooting.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're shooting while you're free falling. That's not a good idea. Like, that's not going to be a very accurate shot, considering like every time you shoot a bullet, then like the next half a second you're going to be like 5 meters below.
Yeah. There was also this one point at like the starting sequence where Taskmaster's in this like massive tank for some reason.
For some reason.
For some reason. And then like Natasha and Yelena or whatever her name is, like they get on this bike and it takes like 5 seconds for like the bike to start up, and then like Taskmaster like comes around the corner and like slams into the wall, and then she just waits there for like 5 seconds while they get on the bike. Like, drive forward, go for them, but instead they just wait. Like, you can physically see the moment where Taskmaster's just waiting for them to like start the race. It's like, okay, I'm gonna wait until this gets like exciting.
Did you catch that Taskmaster was continually referenced to as a he?
Yeah, I did actually.
Why?
It's because when they set it up, they're like, you know what, we're gonna like divert everyone's expectations when we reveal that she's a female. Which, in a sense, it probably would have diverted my expectations if I hadn't have known.
Yeah.
Because you've got a literal male playing the role. Which, again, is messed up.
And he's referred to as a he.
Yeah.
So, look, and I'm fine. I'm completely fine. If they wanted to change Taskmaster to a female, honestly, that's like fine by me. But as long as you stay true to the character in other areas, you know, give her a proper backstory.
Yeah.
And make her a convincing character and get her played by a woman, for God's sakes. Like, anyway, that's enough about Taskmaster, man.
Yeah.
And also, actually, no, I gotta say this. People on Twitter are saying this, right?
Yeah.
So they're saying, oh, remember Iron Man 3? Nobody liked that Mandarin. But look, now we're going to get Shang-Chi. We're going to get the real Mandarin. So guys, I know you're upset about Taskmaster, but just wait. If they can do that to the Mandarin, just wait for the real Taskmaster.
They should have just gotten it right the first time around, man. It's not like they need a second chance to make it better.
And the Mandarin in Iron Man 3 is pretending
I know,
to
he's
be
not the Mandarin. This is Taskmaster.
This is the
It's not like it's an imposter. They decided to make this person Taskmaster.
Yeah.
They can't go back on that creative decision like 5 years later.
Yeah. Oh, there's another one. Oh,
Yeah.
Same
Which
costume.
if they do, what the hell?
Look, I have a major positive about this movie.
Go on.
This is my favourite thing about the
Let's
movie.
hear it.
The vest.
Yes.
Brilliant idea.
I know.
Fantastic. Honestly, I'm not joking. This is my favourite part about the movie.
The vest.
Yes. This is, I think, the best part about the entire movie is the fact that Yelena has this vest and she gives it to Natasha, and it's the actual vest that Natasha wears in Infinity War.
I didn't actually realise until like she wore it at the end.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, that's
Actually the one that she wears in Infinity War.
Yeah.
Brilliant idea.
Which she looks nothing like her in Infinity War in the last scene.
Yeah.
It looks weird, man.
The hair looks off again.
I know. It looks totally different.
It's like they have less of a budget, man, which I guess they did, but
They still had $200 million to make an action film.
yeah.
Come on now. What are you doing?
But yeah, look, I think that's a great example of retconning.
Yeah.
That's a way that retconning can be used really well.
Yeah.
Taking this thing that the character has in this movie, and you're doing a prequel and providing a story for this vest that, I mean, she doesn't wear it in Endgame, but that's okay.
That's okay.
She must have just been like, you know what, I don't really care about Yelena anymore.
Yeah. Or maybe it's like too precious to like lose it.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Okay, let's talk about that post-credit scene then.
Ooh.
With the chick from Falcon Winter Soldier or whatever, and Hawkeye. So, Yelena is told in this scene that Hawkeye is the one that's responsible for Natasha's death. Mm-hmm. Jaden, why is that a stupid thing to say?
Well, I'm just going to quote you here. If she had listened to what Natasha was saying throughout the whole film, she could make on her own accord that Clint Barton, Hawkeye, is not a bad guy.
He's the best friend of Natasha.
He's the best friend of Natasha. She should be able to inference that. If they set up her searching for Clint Barton and trying to kill him, what?
That's just stupid, man.
It makes no sense, man.
If Yelena goes into... Because obviously this is setting up the Hawkeye series.
Yeah.
if Yelena goes into the Hawkeye series trying to kill Clint Barton, automatically, I think this character is stupid. Because she's told at one stage by Natasha, oh yeah, I was in this vent with 2 weeks for Clint. Look, we were playing hangman or whatever on the walls.
Yeah.
Because we were best friends or whatever. Also, ask any of the other Avengers what happened.
I know. Her literal family.
Yes.
Ask her family.
Yeah, they keep referencing the Avengers. So
she
how about
doesn't
just
even
go
know
and
this
ask
person,
them?
bro.
Yeah.
Actually, well, it's kind of set up that she's working for her.
Yeah.
Which I still don't really understand.
Yeah.
Are you done talking about this film?
Let me ask you one more question. Did the film justify its existence?
No.
Okay, me neither. Let's play a game called Better Than or Worse Than.
Yeah.
Better than or worse than Avengers Infinity War?
Worse than.
Captain America the Winter Soldier?
Worse than.
Spider-Man Homecoming?
Worse than.
Doctor Strange?
Ooh. Worse than. Oh. No, worse than. Yeah.
Ant-Man?
100% worse than.
Black Panther?
Worse than.
Thor the Dark World?
Ooh. You know, it's about on par there. They're sitting about the same there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I have an interesting tweet that I like to share with you and the viewers before we sort of close out here. It's about the little instance where Natasha is breaking her nose, and that scene really really kind of hurt my soul a bit, I guess.
Yeah.
Let me find it for you.
Who made that decision, man?
The tweet reads the following. My favourite part was when Black Widow broke her own nose to defeat pheromones. No gas masks available? Or nose plugs? Or even just a chapstick shoved up each nostril?
Or even just block your nostrils with your fingers?
The heroine headbutts a desk to defeat the big bad. This is not a line I expect to read in a $200 million film script.
Yeah.
Got to agree.
Okay. So people, this is the pitch meeting, right? This is all of the Marvel executives sitting at a table deciding what to do with this film. Okay. So now that we've established the boring villain, how does Natasha defeat this villain? What if she breaks her nose? Is everyone on board with that?
I'll raise my hand.
Yeah, go ahead.
Some intern here.
Go ahead.
I think personally that's a really good way to provide a badass moment for this character that a lot of people really, really love. You know, when I think about superhero moments, certainly breaking your own bones is up there in terms of the most courageous
100%.
things. And
especially the nose as well. It's such like a
such an
badass bone break, you know?
Yeah.
Boom!
I you know, that's the sort of behaviour that I aspire to be like, you know, in everyday life. You know, this is why we really watch superhero movies in the first place.
So I think we're all on board. Let's establish that she defeats this villain by breaking her nose.
Hey, Kevin, is that alright with you? Yeah, whatever, I don't care.
Kevin's on the phone. Yeah. Cool. Yep.
Yeah, whatever.
I feel like some points, like, Kevin just, like, he puts his name on the film, but he has nothing to do with the film.
I feel like the fact that this script got approved, because obviously it would have been approved by Feige himself.
100%.
Because, you know, he leads us to believe that he's responsible for everything.
Yep.
You're responsible for the good. You're also responsible for the bad, mate.
Yep.
If he approved this script, it really makes me worried for the future of the MCU. Because this is not good enough.
Yeah.
And I say this as a fan of the MCU.
Yeah.
And,
I like these films, man.
And on behalf of MCU fans, I say this is not good enough. Mm-hmm. And MCU fans should not take this as a good enough film.
Yeah.
I sent you something, and it's like a day or so after the film's released. MCU fans like, all right, now that Black Widow's over,
moving on.
What's next? I'm looking forward to Loki, or I'm looking forward to Spider-Man. Yeah. It's like, how about you just be grateful for what you already have?
Yeah.
But no, it's not good enough.
Yeah.
The only thing
they just need to keep moving on.
This did was move the universe on. very, very slightly, a 20-minute episode could have done the future development that this film did.
Yep. This has no development in it for me.
Yeah.
Other than Yelena's character.
Okay. Let's touch on music segments. So every week we like to touch on the music of a film because we believe the
Music
rewatch
makes a film.
Yeah, we believe the rewatch the music is very important to
It's a huge
films.
part of filmmaking.
The music in this is terrible. I put a song in from the soundtrack.
Put like the original like American Pie in it.
No. I put one of the orchestral themes that they use in an action scene.
Did you put Ellen Silvestri's Avengers in it? That appears in the film.
Yeah, that's the best song in the film. And look, we can go to the Rewatch playlist, listen to that, see how generic and boring it is, because it's the best one that I found in the playlist.
And how do they listen to the playlist?
Go on Spotify, search the Rewatch playlist.
Yep.
Jaden, give us your final thoughts on Black Widow, my friend.
Rightio. Look, I honestly think the film kind of passed the time well. I didn't, I tend to just sit through these films and just kind of enjoy them for what they are. Like I've kind of grown to expect MCU films to just be blatantly average stuff.
Right.
They've shifted away from creating, niche products like the Winter Soldier or Guardians of the Galaxy, and they've moved towards this more expanded universe with the multiverse and all of that. And it's a shame, man, because that's what the MCU should be about. And yes, I think there's a lot of bad things about this film. I think the villains are terrible. I think some of the writing is terrible. The script, I don't know how on earth this passed. The really only redeeming factor for me in this is Florence Pugh's character. I think she was pretty good, and I'm excited to see what they do with her in the future. But man, that's about it. Look, I'm not gonna lie. I kind of had a good time with this while I was watching it, but after assessing it, you begin to realize what's wrong with it. And I always take an average between like watchability, how much fun I had with it, and how good a film actually is, critically speaking. So I kind of find like an even ground there, and it's like right on the edge. So I'm going to give it a C- because I kind of had fun with it.
Okay.
But man, there's so much wrong with this film. Yeah.
Yeah, look, I think my sort of feeling about this movie is that I'm not angry. I'm just like disappointed. I think it's such a shame that one of the key members of this huge franchise has not only not been given a movie for this long, but when she finally does get a movie, it feels like it's an afterthought.
Yeah.
It feels like, someone told Kevin Feige, look, we have to do this. I know you don't want to, but we have to.
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, whatever, just do it. And it feels like it wasn't handled with much love at all, man. There's no rewatchability to this. I will never watch this ever again. I'm more likely to watch something like Spider-Man Far From Home. Or even something like or even something like Ant-Man and the Wasp. I'd rather watch Ant-Man and the Wasp than this film.
Moly.
And so look, I think the lowest our ratings go is an F. And this is the first time I've actually had to consider actually putting something in that thing. But
Holy
I have to look, it just doesn't seem the movie was made with much care, This script shouldn't have gotten approved, and if it obviously it has, and that makes me really sad for it seems like they're not putting as much effort in as they did in phase 2 and 3. I don't think time will be kind to this movie. I think eventually it will be, the narrative will sort of change. A lot of people think it's quite good at the moment. I think in about 2 years or so, people will think it's one of the worst, and rightfully so.
Yeah, everyone will be like, hold up, why do we think this film was so good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, I don't really want to put it on the E tier. That's just feels like an odd tier, but I'll just go with a D. I mean, maybe
Straight D?
Yeah, maybe even a D-. But honestly, I think a D gets the message across.
Yeah.
It's not a good movie. There's nothing that redeeming for me in it. I like the reference of the vest. honestly, that's about it. I didn't enjoy any other aspect of this film. Obviously, it was bearable to watch, but only just. I wouldn't have walked out of it if I was there by myself.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, like, I wouldn't go see a movie that I knew I was going to walk out of. I never have walked out of a movie. But honestly, I feel like my soul walked out of this movie.
At least this is better than Wonder Woman 84.
Yeah, I haven't seen that.
Yeah. I walked
This
out
was
of
better
that
than
film.
Birds of Prey.
This is better than Birds of Prey.
It's better than Birds of Prey.
Sweet, okay.
But, like, Birds of Prey, that's not even a movie.
Yeah. You shouldn't be happy that this is Birds of Prey.
No.
Like, this is better than Birds of Prey.
No.
Yeah, like...
I'd rather watch almost every other MCU movie over this at the moment.
Yeah.
Except for Captain Marvel.
Would you rather watch WandaVision again?
No.
You gotta think about the runtime, man.
Yeah, I know. Wait.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is, yeah.
Because that is, like, a lot longer WandaVision.
I think I would rather watch this again.
Mm.
Yeah. But just because it's shorter time.
Yeah.
Shorter suffering.
Get it over with.
All right. So that about wraps it up for our review on Black Widow.
Yeah.
Look, if you enjoy this movie, I'm happy for you.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could have had the same experience. Please don't let our negative reviews take away from your enjoyment of the film.
Yeah.
Because after all, film is subjective. We've discovered this by doing the podcast. You know, a lot of people can have different interpretations of film. If you like this film, all the power to you.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let us take that away from you.
We need to give our honest opinions.
Yeah.
We need to say whether this deserves a rewatch. So
Yeah. It does not.
does not.
No. For the love of God, do not go back to this movie, guys.
Well, does it deserve a watch?
No.
No.
Depending on who you are. If you're a diehard MCU fan, you're going to go see it. But should you go and see it? Probably not.
No.
Alrighty, thank you very much for listening to this episode of the Rewatch Podcast. If you'd like to follow us on Instagram, you can do so at the Rewatch Pod. If you'd like to subscribe to the YouTube channel, just search the Rewatch on YouTube. Hopefully we're doing a better movie next episode.
Maybe. We've had a few A's in a row.
Yeah,
so
it's about time
we had to break it up a bit.
Got humbled a bit.
Yeah. And it had to be an MCU film.
Yeah, of course.
Only the MCU film.
Looking forward to Spider-Man.
Yes.
Alrighty, thank you very much for listening to this episode, and we will catch you next time.
See ya.